Captain Jack Miller of the United Earth Defense Force never truly believed in fairy tales. As a battle-hardened veteran of 3 interstellar conflicts, he had seen too much blood and destruction to put stock in children's stories. Yet here he was, standing on the bridge of the UES Phoenix, recalling the bedtime story his grandfather had told him countless times. Long ago, his grandfather would say, his weathered voice dropping to a whisper, "Humans built a ship unlike any other. They called it the Nemesis, and it was said to be indestructible, able to think for itself, and fiercely loyal to its human crew. When the great darkness came from beyond the stars, the Nemesis fought bravely, saving humanity before disappearing into the void, promising to return when needed most." Jack had always loved that story as a boy. Now, at 43 years old with graying temples and scars, both visible and hidden, he found it oddly comforting as his ship hurtled toward what might be humanity's final stand. The Vraxian Empire had appeared 3 years ago, their massive hive ships materializing at the edge of human space. They came not to communicate but to conquer, their insectoid warriors overwhelming colony after colony. Humanity fought back with everything they had, but the Vraxians were relentless, their biotechnology far surpassing human engineering. "Captain, we're approaching the rendezvous point," Lieutenant Anna Thompson reported, her voice steady despite the fear that had become their constant companion. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Maintain course and speed," Jack replied, his eyes fixed on the tactical display where 53 small dots, all that remained of Earth's once proud fleet, converged near Jupiter's orbit. Earth had fallen 2 weeks ago. The images still haunted him. The gleaming towers of New Geneva crumbling, the orbital platforms torn apart, billions of lives extinguished. Only those who had been off-world survived, scattered throughout what remained of human territory, desperate and afraid. Admiral Tom Reeves had called for this final gathering of forces. Jack didn't know what the old man had planned, but rumors spread through the fleet of a secret weapon, a last-ditch effort to turn the tide. "All ships accounted for, sir," announced Commander Pete Davis from the tactical station. "Admiral Reeves is requesting all captains join a secure conference call." Jack nodded and moved to his ready room. On the screen appeared 24 faces, friends, rivals, comrades, all showing the same grim determination. Admiral Reeves, his face gaunt and eyes sunken, spoke without preamble. "Ladies and gentlemen, I won't sugarcoat this. We've lost Earth. We've lost nearly everything. But humanity isn't finished yet." He manipulated something off-screen, and coordinates appeared in Jack's data feed. "These coordinates lead to a facility hidden in the Kuiper Belt. It was built in secret over 100 years ago by our ancestors. Inside is something they called Project Nemesis." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "Yes," the Admiral continued, noticing the recognition on several faces. "Like the old story. Our ancestors weren't just building warships. They were creating a legend. Something so advanced, so potentially dangerous, that they hid it away, to be awakened only in humanity's darkest hour." "Sir," Captain Lisa Reed interjected, "are you saying the Nemesis is real?" The Admiral's laugh was hollow. "I don't know what's real anymore, Captain, but our ancestors left detailed instructions, and I'm fresh out of other options. The Vraxians will reach Jupiter in 72 hours. We're going to make our stand there, buy enough time for Captain Miller's Phoenix to reach the facility and activate whatever waits inside." All eyes turned to Jack, who felt the weight of humanity's survival settling squarely on his shoulders. "Why me?" he asked quietly. The Admiral's expression softened momentarily. "Because your grandfather helped build it, Jack, and according to the records, it might just remember his blood." The Phoenix slipped silently through the void, leaving the remaining human fleet behind to prepare their desperate defense of Jupiter. Jack stood at the viewport, watching stars streak by, lost in thought. The Admiral's revelation about his grandfather had shaken him to his core. "Captain," Anna's voice came over the intercom, "we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Reeves. Priority 1. Jack made his way to the bridge where the Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. Lines of exhaustion etched deeper than before. The Vraxians accelerated their approach, Reeves said without preamble. We have less than 48 hours before they reach Jupiter. Whatever you find out there, Miller, you need to bring it back fast. Understood, sir. We're pushing engines to maximum. The Admiral hesitated. There's something else. Your grandfather, Robert Miller, left a personal message for whoever came to awaken the Nemesis. It was supposed to be kept confidential, but he shrugged. End of the world tends to change protocols. A file appeared in Jack's personal terminal. Good luck, Captain. Reeves out. The bridge fell silent as Jack downloaded the file to a secure tablet and retreated to his quarters. His hands trembled slightly as he activated the message. His grandfather's face appeared, younger than Jack remembered him, but with the same kind eyes and stubborn jaw that Jack saw in the mirror every day. If you're watching this, Robert Miller began, then humanity faces extinction. I pray it never comes to that, but we've built the Nemesis as our insurance policy. He sighed deeply. The ship isn't just a weapon. It's something more. We pushed the boundaries of ethical science to create it. Some would say we went too far. Jack listened, transfixed, as his grandfather explained how they had used experimental quantum consciousness matrices, artificial intelligence beyond anything publicly acknowledged, and material science that bordered on the impossible. The Nemesis is alive, in its way, Robert continued, and it's loyal, programmed with one overriding directive: protect humanity at all costs. But we feared what might happen if such power fell into the wrong hands, so we locked it away, requiring genetic authentication from one of its creators to activate. He smiled sadly. If you're my descendant, your DNA will wake it. But be warned, the Nemesis chooses its captain. It will evaluate you, and if it finds you wanting, it will reject you. The message ended with coordinates more precise than those the Admiral had provided, leading to a specific asteroid deep in the Kuiper Belt. 20 hours later, the Phoenix approached a nondescript, gray mass of rock and ice. Scans showed nothing unusual until Anna discovered a faint energy signature emanating from inside the asteroid. It appears to be a hollow structure with some form of shielding, she reported. Take us in closer, Jack ordered. Look for an entrance. Commander Davis pointed to an anomaly on the sensor reading. There, sir. It looks like a hidden docking port. The Phoenix approached cautiously. As they neared the asteroid, a section of the surface seemed to shimmer and then dissolve, revealing a massive hangar bay cut into the rock. Automated systems still functioning after all this time, muttered Chief Engineer Mark Wilson in amazement. Inside the hangar, emergency lights flickered to life, illuminating a facility that had waited dormant for a century. Jack led a small team inside, their boots echoing on metal floors covered with a fine layer of dust. Life support still working, Anna noted, checking her scanner. Air's stale but breathable. They followed a corridor that led deeper into the facility, eventually emerging into a vast central chamber. And there it was, suspended in a cradle of energy fields, a ship unlike anything Jack had ever seen. Sleek and predatory, its midnight black hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible weapons disrupted its smooth lines, yet it radiated lethal purpose. It was smaller than the Phoenix, perhaps a third of its size, but Jack immediately sensed that comparisons of size were meaningless. A control console stood before the ship, a single hand-shaped indentation in its center. DNA authentication, Jack murmured, removing his glove. A holographic projection appeared, his grandfather, looking just as he had in the recorded message. DNA pattern recognized. Miller, Robert, descendant. Welcome to Project Nemesis, initiating awakening protocols. The energy fields surrounding the ship pulsed, and Jack felt something brush against his mind, gentle but unmistakably alien. The sensation froze him in place as memories cascaded through his consciousness. His childhood, his years at the academy, every battle he'd fought, every decision he'd made. He was being judged. The pressure in Jack's mind intensified as the nemesis sifted through his memories, examining his character, his decisions, his very soul. He felt naked, exposed in ways no human should experience. The others watched in growing alarm as he stood rigid, eyes unfocused, sweat beading on his forehead. "Captain." Anna reached for him, but Chief Wilson held her back. "Don't interrupt whatever's happening," he warned. "We don't know what it might do." Inside Jack's mind, the presence of the nemesis coalesced into something almost comprehensible. Not quite a voice, not quite a thought, but a distinct consciousness communicating directly with his own. "You have known war," it seemed to say. "You have killed. You have lost. You have questioned. Yet you continue to fight for your kind." Images flashed through Jack's mind. The colony on Titan, where he'd lost half his crew defending civilians. The hard decisions he'd made as a captain. The nights he'd woken, drenched in sweat, haunted by those he couldn't save. "Why do you fight?" the presence asked. Jack didn't know if he was speaking aloud or merely thinking, but he answered truthfully. "Because life is worth protecting. Because even in our darkest moments, humanity has potential for greatness. Because we deserve a chance." Time stretched, compressed, became meaningless as the evaluation continued. Then suddenly, the pressure vanished. Jack gasped, staggering backward as the connection broke. The hologram of his grandfather smiled. Captain recognized. Nemesis awakened. Transfer protocols initiated. The ship's hull began to glow with subtle patterns of blue light, revealing intricate circuitry that had been invisible before. A section of the hull rippled and transformed, creating an entrance. "What just happened?" Anna demanded, steadying Jack. "It examined me," Jack said, his voice hoarse. "It wanted to know if I was worthy to command it." Commander Davis looked skeptical. "A ship decided if you were worthy?" "Facts. Exactly what my grandfather warned would happen." Jack interrupted. "It's more than a ship. It's..." He struggled to find the words. "It's alive." A deep resonance filled the chamber. A sound felt more than heard. The entry hatch on the Nemesis widened in clear invitation. "Sir," Anna said hesitantly, "we don't have much time." "The fleet." "I know." Jack straightened his uniform. Davis, Wilson, returned to the Phoenix. "Prepare the crew for evacuation protocols. Lieutenant Thompson, you're with me." Evacuation. Davis looked confused. "What about the Phoenix?" Jack's expression was grim. "Those were my orders. Find the Nemesis and bring it back." The Phoenix was just transportation. "But sir, the Phoenix is a destroyer-class warship with a crew of 300, Davis protested. "This thing can barely fit a dozen people." "Trust me, Commander. I don't understand it fully either, but this ship is what humanity needs now." Jack's tone brooked no argument. "Now carry out your orders." As Davis and Wilson reluctantly returned to the Phoenix, Jack and Anna approached the Nemesis. The entry hatch seemed to pulse with anticipation. "Are you sure about this, sir?" Anna asked quietly. Jack wasn't, not entirely, but he nodded anyway. "We're out of options, Lieutenant." They stepped inside, and the interior illuminated with the same subtle blue glow as the hull. There was no traditional bridge as they understood it, only a circular chamber with two reclined seats facing a curved wall that appeared solid but somehow gave the impression it could become transparent. As they cautiously sat down, interfaces formed around them. Not physical controls, but patterns of light that responded to their movements. The ship hummed, the sound changing pitch as if it were speaking. "It's welcoming us," Anna whispered, watching holographic displays materialize. Jack felt the same presence from before touch his mind. Gentler now, almost pleased. Information flooded his consciousness. The ship's capabilities, its systems, its purpose. The Nemesis was faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything humanity had built since. Its weapons were beyond cutting edge, its defenses practically impenetrable. This can't be real, Anna breathed, experiencing her own information download. According to this, the Nemesis can engage 20 Vraxian cruisers simultaneously with a 97% success probability. The wall before them shimmered and became transparent, revealing the hangar. The Phoenix loomed outside, crew members visibly evacuating through the connecting passage. Jack felt the ship's eagerness, a predator too long chained, finally free to hunt. He understood with sudden clarity that the legends his grandfather had told weren't exaggerations. If anything, they had understated the truth. The journey back to Jupiter took mere hours, a fraction of the time it had taken the Phoenix to reach the Kuiper Belt. The Nemesis moved through space unlike any ship Jack had ever commanded, slipping between the stars with an almost casual disregard for the laws of physics as humans understood them. "We're picking up transmissions from the fleet," Anna reported, her hands moving through holographic displays that responded as much to her intent as to her touch. "They're engaged with the Vraxian vanguard." Jack nodded grimly. "Show me." The view screen shifted, revealing the battle unfolding around Jupiter's moons. It was already going badly for humanity. The golden gas giant served as backdrop to a desperate last stand. Human ships, outnumbered and outgunned, fighting with the courage of the doomed. Vraxian vessels swarmed like insects, their organic-looking ships pulsing with sickly green energy as they fired upon the human fleet. 3 Earth ships were already drifting, crippled or destroyed. The rest formed a defensive perimeter around Europa, where the last major human outpost in the solar system sheltered millions of refugees. "We're still 20 minutes out at current speed," Anna said tightly. Jack felt the Nemesis' response before the ship actually moved, a sensation of disagreement, then determination. The stars outside suddenly stretched as the ship accelerated to velocities that should have turned them to paste against the bulkheads. Yet they felt nothing. No G-forces, no inertia. "Correction," Anna said, eyes wide with disbelief. "We'll be there in 3 minutes." "The Phoenix can't match this speed," Jack realized aloud. "It will follow." The ship seemed to communicate directly to his mind. "It is under my protection now." Jack didn't question how the ancient vessel could extend its technological umbrella to encompass his former command. He was beginning to understand that the Nemesis operated on principles far beyond contemporary human science. "Alert Admiral Reeves," he ordered. "Tell him reinforcements are incoming, but not to be alarmed by our approach." The Nemesis decelerated as they neared Jupiter, resolving back into normal space directly between the human fleet and the advancing Vraxians. For a moment, both sides seemed too surprised to react. This unknown vessel, small but radiating power, suddenly appearing in their midst. Admiral Reeves's voice crackled over the comm. "Miller, is that you? What in God's name are you flying?" "It's the Nemesis, sir," Jack replied, feeling the surge of pride that surprised him. "Requesting permission to engage the enemy." There was a pause, then a tired laugh. "Permission granted, Captain. Show us what that legendary ship can do." The Vraxians recovered from their surprise first. 3 of their cruisers broke formation, accelerating toward the Nemesis with weapons charging. Jack didn't need to give orders. As if reading his intent, and perhaps it was, the Nemesis responded instantly. The ship pivoted gracefully, and from its smooth hull emerged weapons unlike anything in Earth's arsenal. Not conventional energy beams or projectiles, but ripples in space itself that lashed out at the approaching cruisers. The effect was devastating. Where the ripples touched, Vraxian ships simply came apart. Not explosions, not destruction as Jack understood it, but a fundamental unmaking, as if the very atoms were being convinced to release their bonds. The 3 cruisers dissolved into expanding clouds of particles. Silence filled the human fleet's communication channels, broken finally by someone's whispered, "My God." The remaining Vraxian ships reacted with unexpected coordination, withdrawing from their individual engagements to form a concentrated attack force. Dozens of vessels, from small fighters to massive high ships, oriented toward the Nemesis. They recognized the threat. Anna observed. They're prioritizing us now. Jack felt the Nemesis' anticipation, almost eagerness, as the Vraxian armada advanced. The ship wanted this confrontation. All human vessels, fall back to defensive positions around Europa, he ordered. Give us room to maneuver. Admiral Reeves acknowledged, pulling the battered fleet back as the Vraxians launched their assault. Energy beams, projectiles, and strange organic torpedoes streaked toward the Nemesis from multiple vectors. None connected. The space around the ship shimmered, and incoming fire simply vanished, or in some cases, returned to its source. Vraxian vessels erupted in emerald flame as their own weapons turned against them. The Nemesis moved into the heart of the enemy fleet, its impossible weapons carving paths of destruction through the alien ships. Jack and Anna watched in awe as decades of Vraxian conquest and terror unraveled before a human vessel that had waited a century for this moment. In the weeks following the Battle of Jupiter, the Nemesis became both hope and mystery to the surviving human population. Scientists clamored to study it, military officials wanted to replicate it, and civilians regarded it with near religious reverence. But the ship responded only to Jack, and to a lesser extent, those crew members it had accepted from the Phoenix. The war, however, was far from over. The Vraxian Empire spanned dozens of star systems, and the destruction of their Jupiter invasion force was merely a setback. Intelligence gathered from captured data cores suggested a much larger fleet was being assembled to finish what they had started. Admiral Reeves called an emergency council aboard the UES Intrepid, the new flagship of Earth's rebuilt defense force. Jack stood before the assembled military and civilian leaders. The Nemesis docked nearby. Its presence felt even at a distance. The Vraxians will return in force, Jack explained, projecting data the Nemesis had helped him compile. We've bought ourselves perhaps 2 months before they arrive with a fleet 5 times larger than what we faced at Jupiter. Murmurs of dismay rippled through the room. Then we're still doomed, General Laura White said bluntly. Even with the Nemesis, we can't stop a force that size. Not defensive, Jack agreed. But we don't have to be defensive anymore. He gestured, and a new projection appeared. A map of Vraxian territory based on data the Nemesis had somehow extracted from the destroyed enemy ships. We take the fight to them, Jack continued. The Nemesis has analyzed their empire's structure. Their worlds are connected by specific warp routes, heavily defended but ultimately vulnerable. If we can destroy their central hive world, their entire command structure collapses. You're proposing an offensive operation deep into enemy territory with a single ship? Admiral Reeves asked incredulously. Jack smiled slightly. Not alone. The Nemesis can upgrade our existing vessels. It's already enhanced the Phoenix with some of its technology. With enough time, it could prepare a small but effective strike force. The room erupted in excited conversation, cut short when Dr. Emma Reed, Earth's foremost xenobiologist, raised her hand. There's something we're missing here, she said, her voice quiet but carrying. The Nemesis was built a century ago, long before the Vraxians appeared. Why build such a weapon when there was no apparent threat? Jack had been asking himself the same question. Each day he spent connected to the Nemesis, more of its secrets revealed themselves to him. What he'd learned had disturbed him deeply. Because the Vraxians aren't new to us, he said grimly. The Nemesis has been sharing information, memories, in a way from its creation. Our ancestors encountered Vraxian scout ships nearly 200 years ago. They recognized the threat they represented, but kept it classified to prevent panic. He took a deep breath. The Vraxians have a cycle. They expand, consume, then retreat to digest their conquests. Earth was catalogued during their last expansion phase, but deemed too primitive to be worth immediate attention. Our ancestors knew they would eventually return and prepared accordingly. By building a single ship, General White asked skeptically. By building a weapon specifically designed to combat their biology and technology. Jack corrected. The Nemesis isn't just a warship. It's the culmination of decades studying Vraxian vulnerabilities. It doesn't just destroy their ships. It unmakes the unique atomic structure of their technology. Dr. Reed leaned forward. You're saying it was engineered specifically as a counter to Vraxian tech? That's remarkably foresighted. Or suspicious, muttered another council member. How convenient that we had exactly the right weapon waiting. Jack had wondered that himself until the Nemesis had shown him the truth. Not convenient. Necessary. The Vraxians have done this before, cataloging species, returning generations later to harvest. They've destroyed thousands of civilizations. We're just the first to prepare for their return. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. The Nemesis has mapped the location of the Vraxian homeworld. Jack continued finally. It's protected by their most powerful defenses, but with the right strategy, we can reach it. Once there, the ship can deploy a weapon that will affect their entire connected network, essentially a systemic virus tailored to their biological-technological interface. Genocide, Dr. Reed said quietly. Jack met her gaze steadily. Survival. Admiral Reeves studied the projected map thoughtfully. How many ships would you need for this strike force? 5, including the Phoenix. Small, fast, and equipped with the Nemesis enhancements. Operation Counterpoint launched 39 days later, barely ahead of the Vraxian counterattack. The strike force consisted of the Nemesis, the Phoenix, and 3 other vessels: the Valiant, the Defiance, and the Retribution. Each had been modified with technology derived from the Nemesis, though none approached the ancient ship's capabilities. Jack stood on the Nemesis's bridge, if the neural interface chamber could truly be called that, and watched as his small fleet prepared to depart. The ship had changed during their preparations, reconfiguring its interior to accommodate a larger crew and expanding certain systems for the mission ahead. Anna, now officially his first officer, monitored the pre-jump diagnostics. All ships reporting ready, Captain. Nemesis systems optimal. Jack nodded, feeling the ship's eager anticipation mixing with his own tension. The neural link had deepened during their preparations. Sometimes he found himself accessing the ship's sensors or databases without consciously initiating the connection. Commence jump sequence, he ordered. Destination: Vraxian Border Outpost PT-117. The 5 ships aligned in formation. Space rippled around them as the Nemesis generated a field that encompassed the entire group. Stars stretched, reality distorted, and they were elsewhere, hundreds of light-years from Earth in an instant. They emerged in a binary star system dominated by a massive space station orbiting a barren, rocky planet. The station bristled with weapon emplacements and docking arrays where Vraxian ships clustered like insects around a hive. Element of surprise achieved, Anna reported crisply. They're scrambling defenses now. All ships, execute attack pattern Sigma, Jack commanded. Target their communication array first. The human vessels moved with perfect coordination, the Nemesis leading the charge. Before the Vraxian defenders could organize a response, the station's primary communication dish disintegrated under the Nemesis's spatial distortion weapons. What followed was chaos for the Vraxians and calculated destruction for the human strike force. Ships that might once have posed a serious threat to Earth's fleet were systematically disabled or destroyed by the enhanced weaponry of Operation Counterpoint. Central Control Hub located, announced Commander Davis from the Phoenix. Downloading their navigation data now. The Nemesis interfaced directly with the Vraxian systems, bypassing security measures as if they didn't exist. Jack felt the information flow through the neural link. Star charts, patrol routes, defense grids. Most importantly, confirmation of the hive world's location and defenses. We have what we need, Jack said. Prepare for secondary jump. The strike force disengaged, leaving the crippled outpost behind. 4 more jumps followed, each taking them deeper into Vraxian territory. At each waypoint, they struck with surgical precision. Communication relays, resupply depots, patrol groups, always moving before reinforcements could arrive. It was during the fourth such engagement that they suffered their first loss. The Valiant, cornered by 3 Vraxian destroyers, fought bravely but was overwhelmed. Its enhanced shields failed under concentrated fire, and the ship vanished in a blinding explosion. 117 crew, Anna murmured, watching the debris scatter across her display. They knew the risks, she added, more to herself than to Jack. He felt her grief, his own, and, unexpectedly, the Nemesis' response. The ship didn't process emotions as humans did, but Jack sensed its recognition of sacrifice, its determination to ensure the Valiant's loss served purpose. Final jump coordinates locked, he said after a moment of silence. All ships prepare for maximum combat conditions upon arrival. The remaining vessels acknowledged, their crews somber but resolved. One final distortion of reality, and they emerged in orbit around a massive planet swathed in sickly green clouds. Sprawling hive structures covered its surface, connected by glowing arteries of energy. The Vraxian homeworld, Jack said quietly, heart of their empire. They had expected heavy defenses, orbital platforms, patrol fleets, perhaps even a planetary shield. Instead, they found nothing. No ships challenged their arrival. No weapons targeted their approach. This can't be right, Anna said, scanning for hidden threats. Where are their defenses? Jack felt the Nemesis' sudden alertness, its consciousness focusing sharply on something it detected. Through their link, he perceived it too, a subtle pattern of energy emanating from the planet's surface. Not weapons charging or shields activating, but something more fundamental. Recognition dawned, bringing with it horror. It's a trap, he said. The planet. It's not just their homeworld. It's alive. The entire thing is a single Vraxian superorganism. The Nemesis assault pod streaked through the atmosphere of the Vraxian homeworld, evading interceptors with impossible maneuvers. Jack, Anna, and the strike team braced as the craft corkscrewed between organic defense towers that launched globs of corrosive material into the sky. Approaching primary nerve cluster, Anna reported, reading data directly from the Nemesis' sensors. The ship says it's the planetary equivalent of a central nervous system. Through the neural link, Jack perceived the Vraxian world as the Nemesis did, not as land and sea, but as a vast network of interconnected biological systems. The nerve cluster appeared as a pulsing nexus of energy at the center of a massive hive structure. That's our target, he confirmed as the pod decelerated, hovering over an opening in the hive's central spire. Remember, we need to reach the core and deploy the countermeasure. The Nemesis will guide us, but stay alert.